Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the McKinney part number T4A3795. This is a pretty epic hinge, pretty unusual hinge, but you do see them out in the world, especially in hospitals. You'll see these all the time. Hopefully you don't see them all the time, but should you supply door hardware that ends up in hospitals, you'll see them specified all the time. It is a swing clear hinge, and it is admittedly a very unusual looking hinge when you first look at it. This funny little angle shape here. But after you study it, especially when it's shown to you in this perspective, you kind of get the idea of what's happening with this. This is your jamb in here, okay? This is, my fist is the jamb. The door is out here. So when the door opens, it gets out and around like that. So now the door is at the 90-degree position, and the purpose of a swing clear hinge is that you move the door out of the finished opening. You clear, by means of swinging the door open, you clear the finished or clear opening. That is mandatory when, a couple of instances certainly, ADA requirements calls out a minimum of 32-inch clear opening. When that door is at 90 degree, the smallest part I'm able to measure on any part of that opening is 32 inch. Now, if you have a 3-foot door and a standard hinge and a standard everything, you're fine. But if you get into situations where your door is smaller than 3 foot, you're not going to be okay, because you'll have the encroachment of the door into the opening, then you'll have the projection of the stop on one side, and you get all that together, and you might become at a dimension less than 32 inch. The other reason that you will use a swing clear is when you want to use a swing clear to get the door open and out of the opening, to clear it out. I have clients who order swing clear hinges because they have clients that move through the opening in wheelchairs, and they want to get the door out of the way and clear it out of the way, and that's why it'll be used. It'll be used for generally in hospitals. You're dealing with wider doors, so they're not exposed to the possibility of not meeting the criteria for ADA, but the way in which the opening is used, the way that people in traffic move through the opening to get the door cleared and out of the clear opening is what's necessary because of the traffic moving through it. Wheelchairs, carts as it's going through it, just moving the door out. If you've ever walked through a hotel, well, you could see it in a hotel too, the back of house doors where they're moving carts through. Older hospitals, their outside edge of the hinge style of the door, those are always beat up on the push side. They open that door and carts come through and they just bang, hit them, bang, bang, bang. And accommodating that type of requirement, that sort of functionality is what this hinge can do. So let's just study what it looks like a little bit in greater detail. First of all, it's a 5-inch tall hinge and it's heavyweight. I know it's heavyweight because I can tell by the thickness of the material it's a heavyweight hinge, but anyone can tell by the fact that it has 4 bearing packets. Where a standard weight hinge, this will be 190 thousandths. A standard weight hinge and this would be 140 thousandths, which have 2 bearing packets. Heavyweight has 4, standard weight has 2. Where are you using this? A high volume door that's likely wider than 3 foot in a commercial application is where you're going to see this. Not sure where it's going. It's going to a company that does maintenance on doors. They likely have hospitals as their client base. Now, what's mandatory to know about swing clear hinges, first of all, before I get to that, let's study this. So this is what you're looking at here. If you were on the pull side of a left-hand reverse door, this is what the hinge would look like to you. As I open the door to 90 degree, now your door is coming right out of here. And what happens is, I'll tip that forward, that gets the door moved out of the clear opening, because what you have to remember is from this plane of the leaf on the rabbet of the frame, I've got a 5/8 stop out here. So that keeps the heel edge of the door on the proper side of not projecting into the clear opening. So that's what a 90 degree looks like. That's what a 180 degree looks like. Okay. All this over here, behind here is your frame. my fist behind here is all the frame. Now, what's important to know about these is whether or not the door is beveled or square edge. These hinges are literally bent to accommodate that requirement. Now, as we go about studying the hinge, when we hold the leaves parallel, actually, when we hold parallel this surface and this surface, when we hold those parallel, okay, we're going to notice that the two leaves are also parallel. That is because the TA3795, that is specifically intended for a square edge door. Now, if this were to be a beveled edge door, well, that's going to change everything. That means that this leaf back here is going to have a relief on it. It's going to basically, well, it's going to have a different bend or an angle. I said the hinge is bent. Well, it's the swag, really, that's put out. Well, I guess it's bent. This would be swag down here, this bend. But in a beveled edge door, this leaf is going to come off this way. Okay, it's going to bend out this way. And that's to account for the 3-degree bevel on the door, so its relief is going to be different the way that it's been bent. Can you make one work without the other? No, not really. Not at all. If you think about, in your mind's eye, if you have this leaf at a 90-degree angle, but your door is really like this, you're going to have part of that hinge not flush, and it's going to encroach into the space, the gap between the door and frame, and you are probably going to have trouble getting the door to latch, getting the door into the 0-degree position and getting it latched. So you might think, square edge door, beveled edge door, you know what, give me either. Not with this one. You have to define what you want, because it absolutely matters. If you were to use a beveled edge hinge, which would be a TA4795 on a square edge door, again, you may not get the door in the closed position. The problem is the opposite, on the sense that you're not getting the you're going to have so much of the hinge hanging off to get the door in the closed position that it's going to hit the rabbet. So it's just not really where it needs to be at all. So that's a crucial fork on the road when it comes to wide throw hinges. Pardon me, swing clear hinges. Wide throw, not a problem. Overall height, 5-inch. Okay. These other dimensions really don't matter too terribly much, but we can give you a dimension from the center line between the edge of the door and the jamb to the vertical axis of pivoting. That would be about 1 3/4 inches. Okay, right in that range. Again, 4 bearing packets. This happens to be a 26D hinge. That doesn't tell me much about it, but the T4A3795, that tells me it's made of steel, as does my magnet. So 26D would be better termed 652 in the BHMA code, because that would tell us it's made of steel in a satin chrome finish. 26D doesn't tell us what the base material is. If I said 626, we all know 626 is satin chrome, sure, but that means it's a brass base material, so this is clearly not 626. This hinge also is non-removable pin. You'll see that that has a set screw that's there, and when those pins are in, tap down, and that's tightened, you'll find that it is all but improbable to drive that out. One very nice feature of the McKinney hinge is that they don't have any access holes here or here. When you tighten that set screw, you don't really have much that you can do. You might be able to try to get a wrench on the top of that and wrench it off and try to get it off, but that's really not practical. What I don't like, unfortunately, about the hinge is when you need to drive that pin out and you loosen that, you do have to sneak a very small instrument to get that coaxed up, and that's a bit of a hassle. But the upside is it's a very clean look on either side with no access holes. Okay, very clean look. So I hope that I have illustrated this hinge adequately in terms of how it functions and what it does. We're going to switch to the screen view in a moment and look at some supporting documentation. But be mindful, this is a full mortise hinge. Those leaves are meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame when the hinge is installed. You can do swing clear in, full surface. You can do swing clear in think you can do them in half surface as well. I've seen them in full surface. I'm pretty sure you can. We're going to hop to the manufacturer's catalog as well and look. So full mortise and full surface, absolutely. I'm sure you can do them in half surface and absolutely in half mortise as well, all 4 styles. So let's do that. Let's do that right now. Okay, so this is indeed the hinge that we are looking at. T4A3795, 5-inch 26D NRP, 5-knuckle heavyweight, 5-inch non-removable pin satin chrome. Swing clear hinges create barrier-free openings by removing the hinge barrel, by moving the hinge barrel and door edge out of the way. Let's tackle that right now. So the bottom line is this. We have a frame. Okay. That hinge barrel is going to be over here. Well, not quite there. Closer to here, assuming it's a 2-inch face frame. You're going to have a leaf. It's going to come like this. Okay. You're going to have another leaf. It's going to come like this. All right. That outer leaf is going to be either like that, or it's going to be, to exaggerate it, to really exaggerate it, it'll look like that if you have a beveled edge door. Okay. So in our square edge door, there's our door. Okay. Now, be mindful of the relationship from the face of the stop here. What's going to end up happening is when this door goes to 90 degree, that leaf is going to end up looking like this. And now here's my door. Now I'm at 90 degree. This is going to be not encroaching. This plane will not encroach this plane. This is your clear opening, this dimension, from stop to stop. Okay? Clear opening. That can't exceed, pardon me, that cannot be smaller than 32-inch in the sense of if that's your clear opening. Now, if you had a standard hinge, that barrel's going to be here. That leaf is going to be here. That door is going to be over here. In an exaggerated sense, that encroaches into the space. So that's why they take the vertical axis of pivoting, move it from here, scooch it over here. That's what happens. Now, of course, in 180 degrees, that leaf is now going to go okay. Now your door is going to set. Oops. Now your door is going to set over here, 180. So that's what it's going to look like. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you know, in the right application, a swing clear hinge is the only product to use. Now, what you're going to notice is the use of a 5-inch and a heavyweight ball bearing. And because of the way that, you know, you're really contorting the vertical axis of pivoting, you're not only moving it away from the center line of the thickness of the door from going from here to here, but you're really moving it quite further away from the center point of the door itself. And it's because, you know, of where you're moving that vertical axis of pivoting, you're going to compensate with a hinge that will end up proving to be far more capable of handling the weight. Hospitals, going to be wider doors. Hospitals, going to be heavier doors. Hospitals, going to be much higher volume doors. So really, putting your ball bearings, obviously, your taller height as well, 5-inch versus 4.5 inch is likely to be 20% more efficient. along with those 4 bearing packets. That's going to be considered best practice for an application like that. Okay, now let's take a look at the item that we have here in front of us. Recommended for use on high-frequency doors, schools, hospitals, public buildings, heavy traffic. Hinge allows for maximum clearance for passage of beds, tables, and other equipment through the doorway. Pressed steel jambs require no special reinforcing. Well, yeah, that's true, but in the world of hollow metal, you can certainly do a high-frequency or a heavyweight hinge plate where, sure, it's going to be prepped for a hinge that's 190 thousandths thick, but it will be a much more substantial piece of steel, larger and thicker than average. But it's true, you don't need anything special. However, I would not use a hollow metal frame intended for an 18 gauge, 2870 that I would for a 3670 16 gauge swing clear heavyweight. I'd be using a different prep for the frames. Screws are included. We'll take a look at those. Non-removable pin we've discussed, 190 thousandths. That's the leaf thickness. I'll put my caliper on that now and just see how accurate the factory is. One leaf is 193 thousandths. The other leaf is 190 thousandths. So yeah, certainly well within margin. Now there are links below this video. Let's take a look at them now. First of all, we have template. Let's take a look at the template. This is a great document because it really shows you what your beveled edge prep looks like. That's going to be your TA 5795. I know earlier I said 4795. It's really a, what are we doing here, a T4A? Yeah, forgive me, I had it right. T4A3795. That's going to be the hinge we're dealing with. Heavyweight exposed bearing packets. Your square edge door is just the T4A3795. Non-ferrous base materials, brass, bronze, or stainless, going to have a little different part number. That 7 is going to change to a 3, is what happens there. Parallel here is parallel here for square. Parallel here is not parallel here for beveled. And that's what I was attempting to refer to earlier by holding this parallel. Locations for the holes of the screws are here, and then a cross-section view of what a right-hand reverse door would look like. Nice document to give you a better look at it. Then we're going to have the catalog. This is the entire product catalog. I had said that I wondered if they were made in other types. McKinney may not. Oh, yeah, they do. Let's take a look. Sure, they do. I don't see that they have them as full surface, though. So they can do half surface swing clear. They can do half mortise swing clear. But I don't see a full surface swing clear. Those hinges do exist. I've literally seen them. Obviously not by McKinney. So half mortise, half surface. The term half means one leaf is going to where it normally goes on the door and frame when full mortise is our frame of reference. The word that they use, mortise or surface, applies specifically to what's happening on the door leaf. So it's half. That means, okay, half something. Half is normal, half is not. So when they say half mortise, that means that the jamb that goes to the door is mortised to the edge of the door. So you obviously have a hinge leaf on the frame that's surface mounted. In a half surface hinge, it's the opposite. You're going to have the door leaf surface mounted, then the frame leaf mortised to where it would normally go. This is the entire catalog. I won't go through this. This is the entire McKinney catalog that you can review. Pocket pivots. These are also known as Harmon hinges. These are pretty cool. Oh, it's a bit poetic that we landed on this page because this hinge also is a swing clear. A Harmon hinge or a pocket pivot completely moves that door out of the opening. Yeah, you will see these in hospitals as well. if we were to search for Harmon, H-A-R-M-O-N, I don't know the legacy or the genealogy, so to speak, of that term, but that's an old term that goes back to the 19th century, surely. Let's just look at images of Harmon hinges. Here's a great application of one being shown. Yeah, what a great idea a Harmon hinge is, because I don't know where we're being taken to here. Here, great application. Oh, really cool. So what's happening here, obviously, is that when that door opens, it's going to fit inside of its pocket, but it will also serve as a means by which to get it out of the opening. Now, what's really cool here is it moves the door completely flush, which means it's out of the opening, but now we've got raised molding. So that projection of the stop and the projection of the raised molding probably still keep it quite flush. So it's, again, poetic that we landed on a Harmon hinge or a pocket pivot hinge. Really great piece of equipment. Again, very common in hospitals. Template, we talked about the product catalog cross-reference. This is obviously just a T4A3795. Cross-reference, if you're looking at what Hager is doing, a BB1262 or a Stanley FBB 268, it's going to cross-reference to your T4A3795. Handy document there in terms of it being a cross-reference. I don't remember all the part numbers. I gave up that. I gave up that business many decades ago. You don't need to. You know, now in the world of PDF documents and the Control F function on your keyboard, you don't need to memorize because you can find it quicker than you can realize that you forgot the part number. And there we are. So here is our cut sheet, and that is also linked to down below. And this document, of course, is just a one-page tier sheet, they call it. Again, showing you what it looks like in a square edge fashion versus the template showing you the beveled edge. All of this we've gone over. That part number, again, changes from a 7 to a 3 for a stainless-based material. They apparently do not have brass or bronze. Showing you your leaf thickness for the two sizes that are available. Some options. Now, one thing that might be a little confusing, and I know it is to me, or was, is they have a TA. This happens to be a T4A. It's because it's heavy weight. If it was a standard weight, it'd be a TA versus a TB or a T4B. So they have ball bearing. I've called this hinge ball bearing 100 times by now. This is a TA hinge versus a TB. What's the difference? Well, the short version is TA is superior. TA is a self-lubricating base material. If you want to, and I'm going to leave it at that. TB, that was your grandfather's hinge. Not as superior, not even close to being superior to TA in terms of material science. There is the link here below this video to the manufacturer's page, bearing information. If you want the manufacturer's statement on the difference between TA and TB, it's here. The bottom line is TA is superior. It's a self-lubricating science, very often seen in latch bolts, meaning when parts come together that when metal has to touch metal, and especially under load, self-lubricating is a superior sort of way to reduce friction. They can also do a concealed bearing as well, which is not listed here. That might just be called the T. Bear with me. It's certainly not called T. I think it's called TCA. Let's take a look in the manufacturer's product catalog. Again, here, and I know that they have a summary relatively early in the catalog. Here it is. TA, TB, TCA. Now, TCA is going to be the real sweet way to go. It's going to give you the A upgrade over B, oil impregnated bearings, but it's going to do it in a concealed fashion. if we just consider this image and this image to be the same image, now you have the performance of a TA hinge, but you don't see those unsightly bearing packets. That's the real sweet hinge to use. It looks like it's plain bearing, except it is most definitely not. But I don't see a TCA as an option on our cut sheet here. Anyway, hospital tip can be done where they're going to grind that top portion down so that someone can't loop something over the top of the hinge and inflict harm on themselves, making it ligature resistant. Security stud feature, that's interesting. That's going to have a large disc that's going to be attached to one leaf, and when both leaves close, that disc is going to seed into a hole prepped in the other leaf. You can do the ability to pass voltage through the hinge, and you can also have a switch, basically, or monitoring. You can have, you know, magnetic monitoring, which can report back door open, door closed, meaning circuit, you know, open, circuit closed, whatever it might be. So very handy. That link I referred to the manufacturer's page earlier is here, where we can click on that and view not only all of the McKinney products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog and other encyclopedic documents as it relates to McKinney, such as product templates, that bearing information I mentioned earlier, available finishes, old versions of the catalog, and then a really old version of the catalog. If you want to see what McKinney was doing in 1929, while the Marx Brothers were on the big screen, the silver screen, almost 100 years ago, that's what they were doing. It's right there. Large catalog. We won't wait for it to open. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, I mentioned earlier I would show you the screws. They are included, all machine screws and all wood screws. These are unusual screws. They are 1224 flat undercut head Phillips drive thread forming screws. There's a funny little preparation in the edge of that screw that's there. That's to clear the thread out of the taps. Pardon me, clear the thread out of the taps. Clear the paint out of the tapped holes when the manufacturer hangs those pieces and runs their jams through a paint booth and then sprays the daylights out of everything. That's what that thread forming is for. You're supposed to tap those holes clear of all paint. The factory knows that you don't do that. That I don't do it either. But I do, though, because it's Friday at 4 o'clock and I don't want to screw up the chance of getting home on time, so to speak. So we clear that paint out. But regarding the screws, don't count on them sending you all wood and all machine. I would never think that this is going to be a wood frame and a wood door. Although it could be. You could have a hospital with a chapel and lots of raised molding, and they're using Swing Clear everywhere else, and they're going to use Swing Clear. Define the screws that you want at the time of order. Indicate that in the comment field. Tell us what you have. What's the composition of the frame? What's the composition of the door? So that we can relay that to the factory so that the screw packages are accurate for you, and there's no trying to find a number 12 by 1.25" threaded to the head screw in a complementary finish. Might not be hard with satin chrome, but imagine if you had satin bronze. McKinney is a company that's under the ASA Abloy umbrella. Her sister companies would be Adams Wright, Hess, Folger Adam, Rockwood, Pemco, Medico, Sargent, Yale, Corbin Russwin, countless others. Abloy and ASA, for that matter. Those are Abloy and ASA. ASA and Abloy are two companies on their own, and they do high-security cylinders. If you ever get into cylinders and interested in high-security cylinders, the ASA is cool. It's like Schlage Primus, and in fact, the same person patented both of those technologies. They're very similar. They're different, but very similar. So if you're familiar with Primus, you're familiar with ASA for the most part. But if you want to see a really cool cylinder, look at the Abloy. The current one is the ProTech 2, I believe. And that is an incredibly unique design where there's a key that has a shaft. And on that shaft, I believe there are 14 spaces where there are different cuts at different angles. And when you put that key in, and you turn it, it will set up a series of discs that all have to align so that the gate in the top of all the discs will allow the fence to come down to allow the cylinder to turn. Absolutely fascinating. Incredibly pick resistant. I've never seen a video online of someone picking it. Incredibly robust. Because there are no springs, there is very little wear on this material. It's completely mechanical, and it was invented a long time ago. Anyway, so just as an aside, but in the world of high security cylinders, you know, McKinney's sister company Medico owns the majority of the North American high security cylinder work. And of course, Corbin, Sargent, Yale, they all have high security cylinders as well. Any questions on the T4A3795 5-inch NRP 26D heavyweight hinge or any other McKinney product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.